Thank you guys so much for joining us for another episode of Bold Voices. So excited to be here today. We've got some great guests, and we're going to be talking about collaboration. So I'm excited to be here with my co hosts. We have Misty Lee and Raschell, who probably will be joining us momentarily. But life happens, guys. So we don't know. We just keep it going. The cameras start rolling, and it is what it is. So I am LaChelle, also known as America's Supermom, mother of 15 children, and I am a vitality coach. I help you to navigate through the chaos of everyday roller coasters, ups and downs, and transform that into clarity and confidence with a smile. So I am so excited about this topic because this has really been a game changer in my life, and looking forward to what everyone has to say here on the panel. So over to you, Misty Lee. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to be back on the show. Thank you, LaChelle, for keeping me on my toes this week. I'm Misty Lee from Campground TBD Publishing. I help people hybrid publish their own books. I publish for people. I'm also an author, and I'm excited to announce that I'm officially the founder of the nonprofit for my son, Hayden's Way, and that is grief relief, whether it's from sobriety or the loss of someone, anything that's just causing that ongoing pain. And that's something that we do virtually and on site here in Western Arkansas. And I'm
Well,
excited to be here as well. And I know Raschell, like you said, maybe her day for the internet because normally it's mine. So
I love it. Well, I mean, that is just really awesome to take on a nonprofit and everything. So that would be a great topic for one of our future shows because
I'd love
my
to. I'd
husband,
love to.
my husband's a pastor, and that whole 501c3 thing, I mean, hey, it was like pulling teeth trying to answer a lot of those questions. So,
Yeah, it's the hardest, easiest thing you'll ever do.
so true. Well, congratulations on that. And
Thank
what
you.
a legacy. That's amazing. So, we are excited to get into today's topic. And I want to thank everybody who is joining us and watching live. Lots going on, guys. We're not the best at multitasking, but we do enjoy the fact that you are engaging. And that is really what this is about. We have a community on LinkedIn as well as making connections. We've had guests on the show that connected with us, and they ended up as international best-selling authors simply from commenting. So we encourage you to make sure that you do engage with one another and reach out if somebody resonates with you. Uh, Reach out to them. You just never know what could happen as a result of coming together. So we do have another co-host. We have Raschell Harlingten. She is a podcaster, and she is actually working on a blueprint um, program that she's doing right now. So we
And she's
encourage
an
you.
author. She's a
Yes,
number one best-selling author as well.
absolutely. So she is somebody that you want to make sure that you connect with as well. So we do have our panel that is here. I'm so excited to get into today's conversation. So we are going to show a quick little clip, and we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome to Real Life Without Excuses. I am America's Supermom.
Yeah, I love how we had our own fall festival. Whenever,
Oh, yeah.
that was just too funny. That was fun.
Recognize who you are, what you'd like to see in your life, and who you'd like to partner with.
I love that. And, that's coming from a place of power.
She makes. I have written with women who have been through things I could not even imagine. You can tell the old story. Don't dwell on the old story because most of your friends are not trauma counselors.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for allowing us to have that quick little commercial break. Uh, I tell you, it's a lot to have in the show. I'm like, did we sign up for this? You think you could just turn the camera on and everything is done, but you've got the comments, you've got banners and all this other stuff. So I'm so grateful for everybody to be here today. So we are going to get right into the conversation because I think this is definitely a topic that I have really been transformed with because I was all about competition growing up, being a high achiever and things like that with school. I didn't really know how to collaborate. So, really understanding how to do it, I think, is important for many people. So, I guess the first question I would ask is, you know, what is the formula for collaboration? How do you know who to connect with and, whoever wants to get started with the topic?
Well, I'll go first since no one else is jumping right up. I introduced myself before, but I see some people on the panel. Hello, I'm Mistilei from Campground TBD Publishing. And I really like that the term cultivate and cooperate. And LaChelle and we've been working together now for almost a year, and we've cultivated this really beautiful relationship so that our cooperation just goes much smoother. And so I think one of the first things I would say to the formula is maybe don't expect instant receiving of the collaborative effort. That you got to be willing to come into it with something and then build that relationship. And also, I would say my second thing is if I don't feel a good alignment, I don't force a business. They might have the money that I'm asking for my services, but if I don't feel an alignment, I know that that's not going to work great. So I don't attempt to force a collaboration there because there's nothing for me to cultivate. So it's more of transactional. So I've had to say no to some business opportunities because I knew it was going to be transactional and it wasn't going to add to what I was wanting to cultivate for my future. So that's one that was a big growth for me. Sometimes saying no to a client because it's going to take me away from where I'm headed as far as collaborative efforts. So that would be my 2 cents there.
I love that, and I think, for like a lot of people, for myself, just in general, I didn't really have like a formula. I always just thought, well, is it my way or, is it their way? I didn't understand that we could co-create a way, none of that. So how do you get past the competition mindset for anybody who wants to address that, feeling like it has to be my way or their way? The whole idea of co-creating was just like foreign to me. So how do you work that out?
I'll go ahead. I'll hop in here and piggyback off of what Mistilei said. I think it's about finding the people that you want to bless, right? There's people that are so far ahead of you, and you know that if you could work with them, you would be blessed by that opportunity. And I'll give my example. I followed Warwick Dunn for years. And Warwick, Mistilei, you talked about nonprofits earlier. He helps single moms get their forever homes. And I had just so much respect for that. And finally, one day I mustered up all my courage and I reached out to him on LinkedIn and I said, Warwick, I love the work you're doing. Here's why. I shared my 5-sentence why I would love to collaborate with him. And like instantly writes back, okay, great, let's hop on a call. Who was more blessed? but I always say, if you can be the person in the room where you're going to be blessed by leaning into what someone else is doing, that's the key.
I love that. Now, so my next thing is, how do you get the courage? Because I think the first thing that many of us do is say, well, I don't have anything to offer, or they may not want to talk to me or something. So, how do you get over that negative paralysis, that goes on for yourself?
I'll jump in here. I think a lot of it for me, especially, is if I see that somebody else is doing something interesting and okay, maybe I have some self-doubt or imposter syndrome that I can't match them or like live up to whatever expectations I've created in my own head to be as good as them, I have to let that go, right? I have to come back to myself and say, I don't need to be on the same level as them. I don't need to be where they are. I don't need to be further ahead. I could be 10 steps behind. But if I see what they're doing has even like a shred of interest or curiosity that sparks me, then I can piggyback on that energy all day long because I'm interested and curious about other people and the way that they operate. So it doesn't matter where I am in the equation as long as what they're doing lights me up. I can have a conversation about it all day long. The other thing that's coming up is, and Mistilei spoke about this a few moments ago, was about being in alignment. If I'm talking to somebody, and going back to your original question about how do you know where to leave the competition, there's room for all of us to grow and thrive. And we're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. We're not going to be for everybody. Everybody's not going to be for me. And so if I'm having a conversation with somebody, and I might really be lit up by what they're doing, but if their values aren't in alignment with mine, it's okay for me to say no. And you know what? That just leaves room for something else great to come my way. It creates space for something else that is more aligned. You were talking before we went live about the book, The Power of Intention. And even though I haven't read that book, it made me think about the law of attraction and how we attract the things that we want to see more of in the world. The grass is greener where you water it. So the more we go looking for something, if it's aligned, if it's what we want to do, if it's what we want to see more of, we're going to attract those things. So I think about that a lot when I think about collaboration.
I love that. That is so good. And does anybody else want to add? I'm over here. Paul is writing a whole bunch of stuff in the comments, so he's making some good points. But what about you, Shauna? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was watching the panel and everyone's nodding with what Shell was saying, but also too, I want to add just to kind of a little bit of what everyone said so far, the courage. When you are listening, whether it's an audio or reading, here, let's say LinkedIn even, you're going to know if it's something that interests you. And if it's something that interests you and you would like to interact with that person, it shouldn't require a lot of courage. For example, for me, if I saw something and I'm like, oh man, I'm going to need a lot of courage to do this, for me, then it's kind of a no, maybe this isn't going to be aligned, if that makes sense. So it should be organic, when you have these alignments with someone, whether, and for me there's different types of alignments. There could be a collaboration with someone maybe who has a good business sense, or someone who is really good with writing and coming up with writing content in a reasonable amount of time, but something that will be engaging the audience. And all these examples I'm giving are actual specific of what I did to collaborate with people, because as you see from my heading, I'm an energy therapy practitioner. But I don't just reach out to people with the hope that maybe they'd be interested in booking a session with me, because it's not about money gain for me. It's about building those quality relationships with people, just that human to human interaction. And then it can naturally grow from there into different. I've learned so much, even from you, Supermom. With the people that you've engaged me with, and learning from them, but also just the social skills. You're like not only are you a super mom, you're like a super skills. It's the social skills I'm getting goosebumps. Oh, that was really strong. I'm very sensitive to energies, by the way. So, yeah, like I'm loving that we're talking about this.
I love that.
Tiny little tidy box. Like there's just so many opportunities, right?
Yeah. So what are your thoughts, Tamara? Can she hear us?
Oh, you're muted, dear.
You're muted, Tamara.
Down on the bottom, the panel on the bottom should be on your left.
Can you unmute her, LaChelle?
Oh, let me see if I can try.
I love that the way you guys were talking about the importance of asking.
There she is.
There she is.
I'll find it. I think the most important part is to connect with people, and it doesn't have to be over business. I just came back from a two days networking event in I live in Switzerland, but an international networking event, and I talked and connected with so many people. They have nothing in common from the business side, but I connected with them, and the thing is about helping each other. Even if I can't help them in their business because they're CEOs of whatever, the important thing is maybe I know someone who can help them with a little problem. So I think the first step is to connect with people, just because that's a gut feeling. You'll see this person, think, okay, that's nice. I want to talk to them. And afterwards, but very much afterwards, really, it comes to business. It's just the connection between people. And then we'll see what's growing out of it.
And this is interesting because, sometimes when it comes to collaboration, it's the feeling like you kind of want to fit in, but it's us being able to be unique that helps us to, bring something to the table, so to speak.
Mom,
yes, sweetie.
Can you please get to Maya?
Okay, what's going on?
They just pull him.
Okay, so tell them that I'll be coming in there here shortly when I get done. Okay, that's my grandson. Sorry about that. Everything stops with the grandkids. Okay, I tried to ignore him, but he wasn't having it. Okay, but like it's the fear of kind of being so unique and different. Like for you, for example, Tamara, you do face yoga.
Yes.
So we hear about yoga, but what you're doing is different. So how do you balance being able to be something different and unique and still collaborating? Because sometimes there's that urge to just, I just want to fit in with everybody else. It's hard to stand out and then also collaborate. Does that question make sense?
Yes, it does. And it wasn't easy in the beginning because on even on LinkedIn or on the online or offline meetings, I'm standing out because I have something of my own, and my business, it's me and me. It's just a very small business. But anyway, I think when I'm interested in other people, in their persons, it doesn't matter so much what's behind my business. It comes as the second or third step. It's for me, I've met so many people this weekend. I usually met a lot of people, and it's nothing to do about business, because my business is, of course, it's part of me and it's very important to me, at least, but it comes from the person. I talk to them and they talk to me, that we tell each other what we are doing, what's interesting, but the business is like, it comes afterwards. I burn for my business and they feel this I even don't know how to explain in English.
That's good. I'm picking up what you're putting down. That's good. So, and I'm thinking, does anybody else want to answer that question about feeling like you're unique, but you want to be able to also collaborate, but how do you tread through those type of conversations?
LaChelle, I'll chime in here with some real practical advice that I use to just really dial it down when I'm training people how to do this. I say two things. You have to know who exactly you are. So why do you do what you do? What wakes you up in the morning? What keeps you up at night? What are the passion projects you do? Write it down. Just keep finding the adjectives that described you. I finally figured out that for me, I'm an inspirational instigator. I want to inspire people to change the norms, to press the boundaries, to just live life really, really deep and make the world a better place. So I know who I am, number one. That's one. And then the second is know your boundaries. So everybody's going to come knocking on your door. Can you help? Do you want to do this? We've got a great idea. Can you give us some money? Do you want to do this business? And it's like this constant, how many calls does everybody on LinkedIn who's watching this right now get every day through AI, through bots, through people, through salespeople? You got to know where your boundary is. So you got to pick something that you're going to say yes or no to. I'll give you my example. Does this create hope and possibility? If it does, I'll entertain a call. If it doesn't have anything to do with creating hope or possibility for other people, I just know I'm not the right person. So who are you and what's your boundary? That's as practical as I can be for figuring it out.
I love that, and, so having the courage, I think also being able to ask sometimes hard questions, and we think that no is like a bad word, when we find that something is not in alignment. But I've learned that my peace is more important than, the fear of saying no. So for people who are like, oh my gosh, I've got so many opportunities, I'm afraid to say no. They think that they're maybe not helping or something. So what advice do you give people to kind of get on that road of saying no?
I'll let other people hop in. I'll just say I don't want to waste other people's time. If I'm going to end up saying no 4 calls from now, I don't need to waste 3 hours of your time on 3 different calls for then me to say no. Let your no be no. It's okay. It's okay to smile and say this isn't the right opportunity for me. Maybe you know somebody, maybe you don't.
Love that. Anybody else want to chime in with that?
Certainly one thing that I've learned as well is asking the right questions early on. And this is something that I have learned, because then, and I'll confess, I've been guilty, by the second call, the third call, then I'm finally getting it, what they're all about. But the onus is on me, if I didn't get it, to ask up front. And for me, that's more of a, you talk about courage again, courage. And I love this theme of bold voices. So that really ties in with what I've been working on, even just these last couple of years, right? Finding the courage to one, meet with these people, wonderful people. And then 2, when you are with them, just really understanding, having those valuable conversations within a reasonable short period of time, but then don't hang up until you understand what it's all going to be about before you take that second step. Their time's valuable, but also our time's valuable, right? So
yeah.
I
love, I tell people, we used to do these rooms on Clubhouse to help people have courage to speak up and do public speaking or whatever. And, one of the things I would tell people is be more open to having a conversation with the person in front of you rather than the one that's in your head. Because a lot of times we will create harder things in our mind. Oh my gosh, they're going to say no, or this is really a hard question. And they're not even thinking about it, because it's your own internal dialogue. So I love being open, I think is one of the things. But, who says the question is really hard? This is something that we sometimes even make worse than what it is. And it may not even be that challenging, because that's what we're thinking, but they may not even be bothered by it at all.
I'd like to hop in here and add something if I can. Sometimes we go into conversations, we have the best of intentions. We feel really good about something in the beginning. We think there could be a collaboration that's there. And then as we get to ask those curious questions and get to know really what drives that other person, what they're all about, and we know what our boundaries are, hopefully we know who we are, as Kayla was saying, like, it's okay to then change your mind. Like, it's okay. If you don't give yourself permission, I'm giving you right now. I'm giving you permission to change your mind. If you then realize that opportunity, that collaboration is not for you. And I think that's where we have the tendency to get in our heads and overcomplicate it, because we feel like we've already put so much time and energy towards it, or we've maybe already promised or like set the intention out loud that we are open for the collaboration. And then we don't feel okay to say, you know what, this is actually not for me, and take it off the table. And you can do that. You can be bold in asserting that for yourself. So if you're not giving yourself that permission, this is your reminder that you can make that choice for yourself.
I love that. Now, Paul has a question. He says, I'm curious for the panel, how important is storytelling to collaboration? There's the saying, facts tell and stories sell. He always connects with people through stories. So what are you guys' thoughts on storytelling with collaboration? You're muted, Missy.
I think it helps you find your overlap when you have a story to share, that common ground. And also when in your sales position, like with what Paul does, it helps you get a better feel for the customer, because you can get more of the sense of where they are in the story with you. As far as collaborating with other business owners, that's where that cultivation, the more I know about LaChelle's story of her whole life, the more I know to call her and say, hey, who's the best person for this? And she'll instantly give you the message, because she's cultivated her own. She might call me and say, hey, I have someone who wants to do this kind of book, because she knows, because we've been cultivating this bigger story. And that's where I think it makes it easier to say yes and no, because she and I have a cultivated relationship that if she asks me, do you want to participate? And I say, no, thank you. She goes, love you. I'm going to call over and ask this person now, because she knows our relationship is not based on my saying yes to her proposal, nor her to mine. And so that's where that cultivating your relationships and just knowing which lane we're in. That if I'm in my lane and you want me to step out of my lane, I love you. I'm just going to go ahead and stay in my lane. And so I think that stories can help a lot of different ways, as far as the bigger story of the whole person and in the interaction of both. Of course, I'm an author and a publisher, so I love stories and writing in all forms. So I could be partial to the written form.
I love that. Go ahead, Tamara.
I think as well that storytelling, especially online, if you don't know someone, it's like it's the first impression. If it comes over very boring, it takes me more energy to connect with this person and think maybe if I start to connect, if I start to write or make a Zoom call or whatever, it will be hard and it will be boring. But if it's a very interesting story, it's like it captures me, and then I think, okay, that's nice. I want to know more. So that's very often the start of with storytelling. It's the first impression. In my
I love
opinion.
that. Yeah. I mean, I agree, because, like he said, he connects with people through stories, but it also helps you remember people, so Kayla and she reached out to me because she was coming to Atlanta, and she invited me to a meet and greet. And so I thought, well, I don't have anything on my calendar, I'm gonna go. And I actually met her business partner first before I met her at the event. And he said, wow, she's got like 8 kids and you have 15. He said, well, look, you guys are 23 strong. So now that's a hashtag that we have, because of that story. So, you just never know how that comes together. What are your thoughts about that, Kayla?
First of all, thank you. I love 23 strong. I think that people do business with people that they trust, right? We can all just nod our heads that we all know intrinsically that that's true. So how do you build the speed of trust? Great book, by the way. It's through being vulnerable and being transparent and being authentic. So show up as yourself, be who you are. Yes, I'm a single mom. I have 8 kids. I live in Milwaukee. I grew up abused and in poverty, and I'm now the executive vice president of a nationwide organization. That's my story. I'm proud of it. I'm not ashamed of it. I work with some of the greatest people you'll ever meet. And I get to work with them. Thank you. I get to work with them only because we're all really transparent and vulnerable about the problems that we see and what we're trying to fix, right? So to me, show up as yourself, be vulnerable, and just be open.
Love that. That's good. Shell, did you want to answer too?
Thank you. I was thinking about how I wrote this down. Stories make you relatable, but it also makes you memorable. And you want people to remember you. You want to build, as I think several of us have shared before, you want to build that like, know, and trust with somebody. You want them to remember who you are, but you also want to keep that energy going. And if people are hearing your story and they can relate to it, that dialogue is now open for somebody else to be vulnerable and share back with you. And whoever else sees those stories, that story now becomes a larger story because now we're all in it together. And so it's the power of storytelling that really, like, it grows exponentially because it connects us all. And so even if you don't think you relate to somebody on like every single level, there's always some tiny little connecting thread that brings us together. And when you share your stories vulnerably and openly, then we can all just be in the muck and coming through the experiences together and be better for it. So yeah, share your stories is really powerful for making connections and collaborations.
Love that. All right, Shauna, I'm sorry. I saw you had something to say also.
No, honestly, I'm loving this. I will be bold and brave to say I, to this point, haven't actually used stories. A lot of my content has been what my credentials are, and and when I do the posts, through collaboration with someone who had seen some of my posts from Facebook, she says, "You need to be posting this on LinkedIn," and so I've started. That's my little bit of a story, I suppose. Thank you. Yeah, I like to post healing tip videos, but I have so much more to me than that. So I'm really being inspired and encouraged by you ladies that I'm going to start doing these stories for sure, because I do have a lot to tell.
I love that. Now, so when we talk about vulnerability, because I think that's another one, like, when you're vulnerable, you're relatable. When you're vulnerable, you can inspire people because they can say, wow, if they've gone through what they've gone through and they can do it, then I can do it too. So how do you navigate through vulnerability? Because I've been on a lot of different stages, whether it's on a video or in an audio format or in person, where, for people who want to be vulnerable, what advice would you give them to get started? Because it is somewhat of a practice. For me, it's funny because people say, well, when I get on an interview, is there anything you don't want me to talk about? And I'm like, I'm an open book. Okay. Right. Whatever you want to say, but that's because I really have grown and I just do a lot of work on myself on a regular basis. So for somebody who's getting started, that may not be their thing. So how do you get started with that vulnerability?
My hand is in the air. I read a partial article, and I think it's Psychology Today. I wasn't prepared for this question, or I would have had the links ready, but I think it was Psychology Today, and they had an article this month about things that high achievers do to kind of sabotage themselves. And one of the top one was thinking in an isolated way, thinking this is only my problem, no one else understands. And when I read that, I love math and statistics. I'm not going to be basic. And so that helped me have that courage to go back and go, okay, if most people do that as a failure, then I'm going to speak out. And that changed, LaChelle knows, I'm very open. I'm not anonymous about any part of my life. And that helped me give myself permission, like you spoke about earlier, to ask for what I want specifically. If I get Steve Harvey's private message, I'm going to ask to meet him. I understand that I'm not at his level. I don't care. I think he's going to have a grand time. I'm called LaChelle. We're going to go have dinner. It's going to be amazing. So, but I have the courage to do that because I just decided that day I wasn't going to be basic and do this top thing people do to sabotage themselves. So anytime I feel a struggle coming on, I think, has anyone ever achieved this ever? Who do I know that might know them? Because if it is achievable, of course I can do it. I just need to get outside of my head and tap into all this amazing people and energy and humans around me. So that was for me a huge eye opener that I'm not going to let such a basic activity that it made the top 6 be the reason that I don't get to my goals. And so I just decided I'll be vulnerable even when it's uncomfortable. But it goes back to, we've talked about this on another show, being vulnerable to people that you trust. And we talked about that earlier. You don't just go out to everyone at Target or Walmart and trauma bond with them. You would share very specifically with people that you've already got that relationship with, or that you have good energy with and trust and align. So that was my big push off the edge. If I feel that I'm alone, I have to step out and ask for help because I'm not going to let that be my sabotage.
I love
That's
that.
fun.
I love not going to be basic.
Right?
That's a good thing to tell yourself. Hey, you're being basic.
Yep. That is one of my mantras. I will not, if it's something that statistically people don't succeed at, I'm like, oh, I won't do that. I'm going to succeed. Let me not do the basic way. But I think I think someone else raised their hand while I was talking.
Yeah, Kayla.
Well, I'm going to come in with some real practical advice. I just did this training last week. LaChelle, I was back in Atlanta. I was working with 50 of the country's top athlete influencers at a summit, teaching them how to create vertical media that exposes their personal brand and the causes that they care about. And this is what I'd say. Now I'm going to ask all 4 of you also to just take a moment and do this, because it really is the tool of self-discovery. If you just think about 2 things, what is your greatest strength? And just dial that down. What is your greatest strength? And then what is your biggest weakness? And as soon as you know your greatest strength and your biggest weakness, you're going to see the story of your life and how your biggest weakness turned into your greatest strength. I always say a person's greatest strength is their biggest weakness, and a person's biggest weakness is their greatest strength. There's your story. And we can all do that. That's the key to knowing how to be vulnerable. It's sharing how you turned your biggest weakness into your greatest strength. There's your TEDx talk. Boom.
I love that. There you go, girl. That's good. Mic drop. Okay. That was really good. I love that. Now, so with that experience, what did you find was really the biggest challenge with those influencers that, they were having with themselves, in terms of what they were working to accomplish?
Yeah. So fun fact, LaChelle, it's regardless of age, it's that people don't know what they're passionate about. Like, some people just don't know what wakes them up in the morning. And I've seen this with 70-year-olds. Like, I don't know. I just get up and I go to work and I come home and I watch TV and then I go to bed and I do it again. And so it's like, if you know your greatest strength and you know where you came from, then how are you going to use that to create your legacy? And that comes back to collaboration. It just brings us full circle, right? Like, we're going to create our legacy by working together with others who have the same passion and purpose that we do.
I love that. Well, and I think also, there's power in numbers and that energy, because, everybody just has this idea, when you start business, you look at all the positives about it, but then you don't, if you have a product, sometimes you may not get the product on time, right? All these different things that can happen outside of your control. Well, when you're collaborating, it kind of helps you keep things in perspective and realistic expectations. You're able to move beyond it, not get stuck, and it really lightens the load. I think when we talk about solo entrepreneur, we really kind of take on that mindset and do things by ourselves that really we don't have to do. I'm like, when we started this panel, we were just having masterminds together, Misty and Raschell and I. And then we just thought, well, let's just have some people on. And it just snowballed to great conversations and more learning in the same amount of time that we normally would be working together. So it's so much easier when you do it together, rather than doing it alone. So does anybody else have anything they want to add with that question?
Well, I can tell you that, LaChelle, I won't go into a lot of details, but I'm living proof of that. My life got a huge curveball thrown at me a couple weeks ago, and I have a book coming out, and I had 30 authors waiting for me to make a deadline, and I was able to, in one Facebook private group chat, collaborate the whole book out to help it get released on time. I had former people I've worked with that are helping me with the layout, helping me with the cover design. Nicole, that's been on your show, she's helping. So it was really a beautiful, kind of like full circle of being in your 50s now and having these relationships I've built over time, so that in that moment of need, it just took one post and everybody collaborated in their lane. So the graphic person has never met the layout person, but they just collaborated in the lane of let's help Mistilei. And so that was really beautiful to watch, the power of collaboration come together over long-term building and collaborating and cultivating those friendships. And so that was a really exquisite experience. But where I'm going with this is that through this, we have now learned that we can publish our next book at a fraction of the cost, because we all have the ability to trade services now because of this one little experiment. Even though as humans, these people would have never met or felt a collaboration, but they just concentrated on their one lane. And now we have this really beautiful network that's growing back out again. And they are finding, like what she said earlier, they're finding that maybe they do overlap a little bit more as they hear more of the story. So it's really been great to watch that blossom and grow, and now it'll actually save us money. So collaboration saves you money when you do it for a long term and you really build that life. So I appreciate, and LaChelle, I just want to share that with you. I appreciate you as a vital part of that, because many of the people who came to my rescue were introduced to me through my working with you. So thank you for that.
You are welcome. Now, so my last question, because I tell you, hour goes by so quick, is how do you cultivate? Because, when we're talking about going into our connections or, co-creating, collaborating, or it's crossing over in different areas, what is your tip? We'll go around and everybody can answer for nurturing or cultivating those relationships or collaborations so that we can continue to build on them and they can help us to be more profitable in our businesses through referrals or whatever. So we'll start with you, Shauna, just telling everybody a little bit about where they'll find you and what your final thoughts are on how to nurture and keep up with those collaborations.
I'll dive right in and talk about the nurture. I love to be in service to help others. And there is such an opportunity for everyone from all backgrounds of life to live a more content and peaceful life. The skill sets that I have through all my training, and that's part of the reason I love to do these healing tips, to share those little bite size of information. I'm not going to try to do 5 years of my skill set on a 90-second video, but it's about giving from the heart, so that everyone, we're all here for a reason. We all want to be here to live our best life, but also by my nurturing and those bits, so then they can go back and then they can nurture. It's almost like when excuse me if I say your name wrong, Mistilei, when you were speaking, I was visualizing, about your author in your book, I was visualizing, and then a tree growing, and I was just seeing all the different branches. And so when I think about nurture, and then I could be, say, for example, the tree, and then giving the tree support, excuse me, maybe I'm the earth, and then they're the tree, and then from then they grow a little, and then they help someone else with their skill sets. And then that next person, and then somebody else is the sunshine, and then someone else gives the water. So in a sense, it's a lot of the unseen, but a communal support helping each other. I know that's very metaphoric, so you might have to have a bit of a imagination to visualize that. But how you would find me, oh my gosh, I'm everywhere. So even if you Google my name, Shauna Wood Coleman, you'll find me. So I'm on LinkedIn. I'm also on Facebook. So I have a healing page there. Energy Therapy with Shauna. Yes, believe it or not, I'm on TikTok. I know. Yep. And Instagram. Eventually I'll get on YouTube. I think I have a YouTube page, but I haven't really done a whole lot with it. Because as you can see, I'm on a few places, and whenever I do something, I set the intention that I'm in a good space energetically. So it does take time. But anyway, that's where I'm at.
I love that. You know, that's another show title about the power of intention. We were talking about that before we hit record. So I would love for you to come back and talk about that, because that's powerful. All right. So Tamara, we're over to you. What are your thoughts about nurturing these collaborations and where everybody can find you?
I think the most important part for me is to ask everybody around me, how can I help them? How can I help them? And then it comes back afterwards to me. So I don't want to, how can I say, I don't want to ask people for help. Of course, if I need something, I'll ask them. But the most important part is how can I help other people? And then it comes back. I'm sure about this. And to find me, I have my website. It's Tamara Face Yoga. I'm on LinkedIn with Tamara Face Yoga and Tamara, and I'm on Facebook with Tamara Face Yoga, on YouTube. I have some videos, small videos, and on Instagram. But mostly I'm on LinkedIn. That's my main channel.
I love that. Now,
And
so
then
what
in
time
Switzerland, sorry?
So what time is it where you're at?
8:45 at night.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm getting tired now. I had a long day.
I can imagine with the time difference. And, you know, that's one thing. It's great to be able to make global connections. But then sometimes, you know, we do have to get out of our comfort zone to, you know, accommodate each other. So I appreciate you being here at this hour.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. So we're over to you, Shell. What are your thoughts on nurturing and where to find you?
Yeah, so I think we've all pretty much like said a lot of the same thing in different ways. One of my favorite books is the Go Giver series by Bob Berg and John David Mann. Like I can listen to them every night to go to sleep if I wanted to. They're just so powerful, but also soothing. But like where I'm going with this is the pay it forward idea of things. Is that like if you just keep giving and giving and giving, it's, as Tamara said, it's going to come back. And so I like to think that my knowledge is free. I'm not charging for my years of expertise. I'm not like, it's nothing that other people can't learn on LinkedIn or how to do better. If you ask me something, I'm going to tell you. And I'm going to tell you openly, like what I think and what my experience is with it. Now, it's up to you to implement it and try it out for yourself, because my way isn't necessarily going to work for other people. But I'm an open book. So if you have a question, I am here to support people and be their cheerleader. The cheerleader that I always thought I like needed and wanted when I was younger is what I now provide for other people. And so that's my biggest thing for like attracting more things that I want to see and do and paying it forward in the world, is to just give freely, to give openly, and in a way that does not feel, as a recovering people pleaser, it does not feel like I'm holding on to an expectation or something that is going to make me feel like cringy or like that I'm giving too much or that like it's not aligned. I am here to share my knowledge. And if you want it, just ask. That being said, please, I'm in a bunch of locations, but I'm a LinkedIn expert, recognized as one. That's not my own title that I've given myself. So connect with me on LinkedIn. That's the best place to find me.
Awesome. Another great topic about people pleasing. I'm taking notes, y'all. This is good stuff. All right. So, Kayla, we are over to you.
I'll take you through my response with a story. It's Thanksgiving. Your house is clean. Your turkey came out perfectly. You made real mashed potatoes and they're not sticky. You have the nice crystal and the nice china out. And somebody knocks on your door. Of course, you're going to invite them in. It's Thanksgiving. There might not be room at the table, but you're going to pull up another table. You might not have enough pie. You're going to go get the Oreos. And someone else comes up and they knock on your door and you're going to do the same thing. And you're going to go get the folding table and, you know, the plastic tablecloth that, you know, says happy second birthday from your grandchild, whatever it is. And you're out of Oreos and now you're just putting on some rice and you're finding some potato chips. But you know what? You're going to feed everybody. And that's sort of my analogy of don't have a scarcity mindset. Just keep pulling up the folding tables, the folding chairs, the benches, put the kids, you know, on the floor, get out the paper plates, get out the Oreos. There is plenty of pie for everybody to eat. There's plenty of seats to come around the table. When you bring everybody around the table, the conversation is good and everybody wins.
I love that. I really resonate with that story. Seriously. I mean, it's happened a time or two. So that was beautiful. All right. And then where is the best place for everybody to connect with you?
I don't know how LinkedIn and Facebook and stuff be verifying 50-year-old women these days, but you can follow me. You can't necessarily connect with me anymore, but you can follow me on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. And on Instagram, I'll be able to follow you back, and the same thing with LinkedIn. So definitely always trying to follow back. And also, you know, collaboration is key. I'll give everybody my email address. It's kbradham@sportsloop.com. kbradham@sportsloop.com. Don't be connections, be relational.
I love that. I love that. Well, we just thank you guys so much for great insight for today, you know, because when you think about collaboration, it is sometimes a hard topic for a lot of people to transition into. We talked about trust, vulnerability, you know, overcoming and saying no. And a lot of these things people struggle with. So even though it seems like a simple thing, there's a lot of these concepts that we really still have to work on all the time. So we have so much gratitude for you guys joining us today. And we encourage those of you that are watching to reach out to the panelists. If something that they said resonated with you, please reach out, because it's all about us connecting and collaborating to make this world a better place. So we thank you guys so much for joining us, and we're looking forward to you coming back for future conversations. Okay. Awesome. Well, we're going to do our final thoughts. We thank them so much for being on. Great conversation. I wish we had more time because, you know, I love some of these, you know, like the intention, people pleasing. Again, that's both of those are different shows. What do you think, Misty?
It was great. The conversation was great. I have lots of little notes today. I love that everyone, like she said, we all have the same answer, but in our own voice. And I think that's the beauty of collaboration, is that, and like what Paul said about the stories, if you tell the whole story, even if I don't get you with the fact that I came in a Camaro, maybe I'll get you in the fact that I was in the country when the rest of the story happened, or that I was picking flowers, or that I was going to church the next morning. There'll be some part of the story that your brain will go, oh, I want to hear this. So I love that we all had a different way of kind of telling the same story today. And that's a perfect way to kind of give collaboration a thumbs up. We all have our own way of saying it.
Love that. And, again, we want to give a shout out to Raschell. Not sure what's going on today, but we're wishing her good, healing, positive thoughts, whatever's going on, because you just never know with technology. But she also, again, is a podcaster and best-selling author. So she's somebody that you might want to connect to. She's always about transformational stories. So if you have a story where you've overcome and made a major transformation, she would love to talk to you on her show. And I think my final thoughts is, it's so much easier when you do things together. I envision cleaning up my house. And I don't want to clean it up by myself. So if I get everybody on board where they help out with the cleaning, it just makes it even joyful. You got music going and everybody's just in a better mood because they're not talking about, well, she did this and I did that. It just works better when you collaborate. So that would be my final thought.
Just the community, anything you're doing as a community is always more powerful. And that's what, but don't be basic. Don't try to do everything on your own.
So true. So true. Well, we thank you guys so much for joining us today. And again, we encourage you to connect and collaborate with the guests that were here today, whoever resonated with you, and those in the comments. If someone even said a comment that really stood out, reach out to them. You just never know where that connection can lead. So we wish you guys a wonderful, happy Tuesday, and we will see you guys next week. Bye, everybody.
All right.